Alright, hello everybody. We will be presenting the Cicadia, and I'm just going to ask again that please hold all questions that aren't clarifications until the end, just for the sake of time. Thank you. Alright, so some background. It was approved by the FDA in April this year. It is a pill and it treats non-small cell ALK positive lung cancer. And it was approved for patients primarily who developed a resistance to crizotinib, the predecessor drug.
Okay, so ALK is a protein that is responsible for the non-small cell lung cancer. It is a mutation, and it forms from the mutation translocations. Can everyone put their two hands out again? Okay, with your fingers in the air like you just don't care. Your fingers are representing right now nucleotide base pairs, and each hand represents genes. So translocation is when the genes switch in places. Okay, so that mutation leads to the creation of the ALK protein. So ALK sits in its monomer forms on the cell membrane apart from each other, and when it senses the ligand in the proximity, they come together to form a dimer. So they connect to two parts, like that. Okay? And then it acts as a receptor for the ligand, and inside the cell, the kinase groups, when ATP or energy is added to them, triggers a cell cascade. So, and it's an unregulated cell cascade. That's what the mutation of ALK does. So the cascade that it triggers has three main pathways: the PI3 pathway, the JAK-STAT pathway, and the MAPK pathway. MAPK is not on there right now, but PI3 and MAPK leads to cell cycle progression, and the JAK-STAT pathway lead to anti-apoptotic proteins. And remember, these are unregulated, so these just go on forever, leading to the spread of cancer.
Does anyone have any questions? Yeah? Clarification?
What is the ligand of ALK?
The ligand name of ALK?
Yeah.
Not sure.
Yeah?
Why/how is it unregulated? Like,
Unregulated?
Why does it keep going?
Okay, so think of it like a house. Outside of the house, there is the pathway is trying to get started, right? So it rings the doorbell, sending the signal, the ligand, and then I'm inside the house. I come to the door, unlatch the door, I turn off the inhibitors for the pathway, like that stop the pathway or whatever. Okay? Then I open the door and the pathway is free to flow. If I don't unlock the door, then it's regulated. That's when the pathway is not free to go. But in ALK's case, there's no lock on the door.
Does that make sense?
So, when Cicadia is present in the cell, it will take the place of ATP on the kinase of the receptors, which means that there will be no ATP. If there's no ATP, then no energy will be there for the ligand to go into the cell pathway.
Kinase too, yeah.
So, when Cicadia inhibits the cellular pathways, obviously the whole cell stops, which leads to apoptosis, cell suicide. Therefore, Cicadia didn't stop doing that too.
Yeah. Any quick clarification questions here?
So, yeah.
So how does the ATP factor in normally as
Yes,
opposed to when Cicadia's?
Kinases' roles are to phosphorylate other proteins, right? And so to phosphorylate something, it needs energy. ATP acts as like biochemical energy. So it has a place inside the kinase where it goes and binds to, and I believe it takes the phosphate group and the breaking of the phosphate group supplies the energy for the reaction. Instead, Cicadia binds there, and it doesn't break off the phosphate group, so then the kinase will not have the energy to send off.
So,
And in normal cells, ATP will be found because these pathways do exist in normal cells.
a simple way to think about it is this whole complex is like an engine, and ATP is the fuel. And when there is no fuel, the engine can't work, and so can't produce this cell cascade. So that's what Cicadia does.
Cicadia is like putting water into fuel instead of oil, or gasoline.
Alright, so just to remind you, crizotinib is the predecessor drug to Cicadia. So this diagram here represents the progression-free survival of 246 patients that were tested, in which 163 patients have used crizotinib before using Cicadia, and 83 patients have only used Cicadia in their lives. So y-axis here represents the probability of progression of ALK positive lung cancer while on Zycadia. The x-axis represents the time in months. So you see here, all the patients start off with a 100% chance of progressing, which basically means that 0% of the patients at the beginning have not progressed. So what's important to know here is that the number of patients at this 50% probability represents the median number of patients who have progressed. That just means half the patients have progressed and half the patients have not progressed. So if you look at the gray line, which represents the 246 patients, there was a progression-free survival established at 8.2 months. If you look at the blue line, which represents the patients who have only taken Zycadia, they have not reached this 50% line. That means that less than 50% of the patients have progressed.
Sorry. When he says progressed, he means their disease progressing into further stages, if that was unclear.
So the reason why this is important is because the longer it takes for a progression-free survival to be established, the longer the metastatic effects of ALK-positive lung cancer will be halted. So a simple way to look at it, the lessening of the slope of the line means the lessening of the probability of progressing of the disease.
Over a longer period of time.
Any questions?
Could we save questions on the graph till the end, just
We're
for
almost
time's sake?
Alright.
Thanks.
If you want to write them down. Okay, so this is just a slide to show you how it works. On the left, you can see in the left lung, there are 3 prominent tumors. This is before the 48-year-old man took Zycadia, and after, on the right, you can see the tumors are gone, and this is after he finished his treatment. Not much. That's
It's
all.
just
Showing
evidence of Zycadia.
And just some strengths. So it is a very specific therapy. It's targeted therapy, and it works on very specific patients. And because of this, it has a very good overall response rate and progression-free survival. Similar to a strength, one weakness is that it only works on very select cases. 2 to 7% of all lung cancer patients, let alone all cancer patients, can be treated with Zycadia. Also, the dosage is particular, and an overdosage can cause more side effects in addition to the side effects that may occur at the proper dosage.
And that's it for our presentation now. Ask any or all questions you want.
When I saw that picture,
What? That's fine, go ahead.
when I saw that picture of the person with lung cancer, it says non-smokers. So does that mean that Zycadia doesn't work on?
No, it's just showing that you.
They're giving background on the patient they're testing because smokers are more inclined to get cancers.
It's
Lung cancer.
Anybody can get lung cancer, but people just
Similar to
tend
why they say 48-year-old man. They just want to give more information. Yeah.
Alright, going back to the graph.
Graph? Which one?
Yeah,
Progression
that
as
one.
well? Yeah.
So, this shows that Zycadia is bad.
That.
No, it shows that Zycadia is good. Okay. The y-axis may look a little confusing. Look at it this way. So 100% means they have a chance, 100% chance of progressing.
So,
that means that
So there's a
0%.
100% chance that the disease will worsen.
Yeah.
the
So
blue is the top line here, right?
yeah, blue is the patients who have only taken Zycadia.
So they have a higher chance of progressing than the other two.
No, they progress less. Look at the difference between 100 and 60 instead of, so they progress 40% and about,
No, but so
Yeah.
the probability of progressing is higher. So just to
What's the
clarify, what does
probability?
ALK inhibitor naive mean? That they only take Zycadia, right?
Sorry?
The blue line, the ALK inhibitor naive means that they only took Zycadia, right?
They've only used Zycadia.
And then the yellow line is they took it in combination with other drugs.
This is using crizotinib, which was the predecessor drug.
Okay, so
So
it's
blue
saying
line is Zycadia, gray is average, yellow is Sara.
and the probability is the probability of the cancer progressing, right?
Yes. That was that the confusion.
Yeah.
It's not their health progressing. It's the cancer progressing, which would kind of be the opposite.
you take the difference.
Cancer's getting worse.
You take the difference between where it is at one point in time and another point in time, and that's the probability.
So the cancer is worse than 0%.
it's the worst at 0%. It's the best at.
All right, got it.
Okay.
That makes sense.
It's
Okay.
It's it's the chance of it progressing, which means it keeps spreading and
So Zycadia is more successful when combined with the triple and the yellow line?
No, it's less
More
successful.
successful. And
Because if you look for the
Okay.
yellow line, you see the rates here, there was a progression median of 6.9 months. So that means it's only been halted for 6.9 months, metastatic effects. If it doesn't reach this point, that means it can go a longer time. I mean, like, the metastatic effects will be halted for a much longer period.
I get how the words say that, but the graph, I don't see that.
I think it's the y-axis just is really confusing.
What?
I think that's
What's
sort of
the
like
question?
easier
tag probability
Yeah.
and just listen to what's saying.
It's like,
Are there any questions on other sides?
Elaborate.
Yes, go ahead.
What do you mean by non-small cell lung cancer? Is that the
That's
same
just the
thing?
type of cancer that Zycadia treats because there are different types of lung cancer. That's why it's a selective therapy as well. It only works for 2 to 7% of cancers, but it's highly effective in the realm it does work.
What are some of the side effects of Zycadia?
We didn't really. I mean, there are common ones like nausea, fatigue, diarrhea, and stuff like that. But we didn't really study what the side effects are.
Is ALK only found on cancer cells, or is it?
Yeah, because it's a mutation that causes the non-small or correlates with the
that's
non-small cell lung cancer.
that's a translocation right there. Amy?
So the Zycadia, when it binds to ATP, the pathways are inhibited, and then the
Yeah, because
Yeah, the pathway.
tumor dies,
Okay.
or it just stops growing.
It commits apoptosis because the pathways that would generally surge the cell into cell proliferation and create the anti-apoptosis proteins are cut off because kinases are not active because the ATP cannot reach them. Instead, Zycadia is.